All right, welcome to, sorry, I'm trying to record. Okay, it's not going to record. All right, welcome to the Parenthood Revolution. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to Lori. Lori Bertoni is our guest for today, and she is an NLP coach and a relationship expert. So, yeah, Lori, thank you for being here. And do you want to start with telling us who you are, telling us about your story? And
Sure. So, hi, Connie. Thanks for asking me on here. And a little bit of my story. So, I had a little bit of an experience. I also call this my awakening about 5 or 6 years ago when I went through a divorce and separation. And through that whole process, I really got to know way more about me. That's when I found NLP, and I really got to understanding what's at the root of all of our problems. We'll just call them problems, and how we can clear them and get through them and heal them and work through them so that we can really get back to being who we are and being who we need to be in all the things that we do, so that we're authentic. And, so I've been on that journey myself for the past 6 years. And part of the reason why I'm really focusing on relationship coaching and really helping people work through the relationships is because that's where all our crap shows up. Right. And, and so I want to help people recognize really what's going on in all their stuff with their partner, right? What happens? Why do we go from loving this person so much to like, right?
Yes.
Like them being the demise of your joy and happiness and existence. Like there's something missing there. And I went through it, and now I'm remarried, and I saw some stuff in my new marriage that I was like, this really is all about me. And so what little tips I can impart on people to really help them manage and navigate that in their own life.
Awesome. Okay, so a quick question for people that don't know what NLP is. Can you kind of explain it in a nutshell?
Yes. So NLP is Neurolinguistics Programming, and it's really all about the study of our unconscious programming and patterns, because we run essentially unconsciously. If you've ever done something or, got into habits of doing things, you're like, why do I keep doing it over and over and over again? So NLP is really the study of breaking habits and allowing people to get to releasing their limiting beliefs and limiting decisions, old programming, old patterning that's not serving them. Because everything that we know or do or say really was programmed into us during our childhood, between the age of 0, which includes the womb, to 7 years old ish, maybe 8. There's a cusp there, right? And from that, we are completely solidly formed in our values and our beliefs by our parents, grandparents, family members, teachers, everything else like that. So we're really running on other people's programming, and sometimes that doesn't serve us in our life. So neurolinguistics programming taps into the unconscious to understand what's at the root of all of that and how do you change that and reprogram it.
Isn't
really
it crazy?
Fascinating. I don't know who gave it NLP name. It's the stupidest name ever. It should be called like next level programming. Like, what do you need to do to get to the next level, instead of like, it's like, huh? Right?
Yeah, exactly. So, because it's crazy to think that we are running on patterns that we had absolutely no, like programs we had absolutely no control over. And then when you think about like us ourselves as humans, we're already kind of, we're running on our parents' programming, therefore putting it down onto our children if we don't bring any awareness. It's a crazy cycle, right?
It's like, have you ever done something and you're like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, why do I open my mouth and my mother comes out? Yeah. Right? Yes. Or my father or my grandmother or whatever else, right? Like, because that's just how we were programmed. It's all we know. And until we know differently, and do know how to change those, because it might not be serving us, then you're stuck with it. You can't change it.
Wow.
That's why we get stuck. We're like, we keep running, doing the same thing over and over. Like Einstein says, it's the definition of insanity, right?
Right. You said something in your introduction that things started to show up in your new relationship, your second marriage, in which you were like, oh, it's really me. So if that is the case, if everything we're doing is from ourselves, can we be with anybody?
Yeah, that's a really good, that's a magic question. Yes. So funny, because I was talking with this woman yesterday, and what happens is that as soon as we're with someone else, that's when we realize that we have expectation. And the expectation is self-induced. We have our own expectations. And so all of a sudden you're in a relationship with someone and you are sharing responsibility, essentially, right? So you have expectations, but these are unconscious expectations, even though consciously you're like, okay, it makes sense that someone has to take out the garbage and someone has to make dinner and do the dishes. But unconsciously, you're both programmed differently as to how often it's done, when it's done, in what way, all those other things that we're just taught, programmed. We just watched our parents do things like, there's 9 ways to skin a cat or whatever, more than one way. Right. That's how it's like, you were taught this way, he was taught this way, or she, and then it's the battle of the differences, the expectations. And so yes, you can be with someone else. You just have to learn to know yourself really, really well in terms of what your expectations are, or when you see that you're disappointed in someone else, is that really you just projecting, or do you need to set a boundary? So yes, you totally can be with somebody else, but you have to learn who you are and know yourself really, really well, how you tick. And that takes practice, that takes knowing it. It actually, learn more about yourself when you're with someone else, when you're with your children, right? Right. When you're with a partner. Because if you're by yourself and you're single, everything's honky-dory because you've got nobody else calling you out on your shit, right? Pardon me, it's a family show, but you've got nobody else calling you out because you're just doing you. Nobody cares. It's just you doing the things how you want them, how you like them. And then it's when someone else comes into the mix and it's like, oh, hang on a second, you're supposed to clean once a week. I had a client in here that was like, everybody knows that you have to like clean your like how you clean your house, you have to wipe your baseboards once a month. And I'm like, who says? I don't do that. And she was like, I'm like, well, where's that law? I never read that law. My mother never taught me that. You have to wipe your baseboards down once a month. I'm like, sounds like a good idea. But I'm like, I only clean them when I get low enough to see that they need to be cleaned. Like, that's how I roll. But interesting that she has a different perception of her partner's cleaning schedule. You gotta clean them once a month. I'm like, who says? She didn't get that message either, right? So it's interesting.
Yes, it is interesting. All right, so moving on to communication. Why is communication the foundation of everything and yet the biggest challenge in relationships?
Because we have different communication styles. So how you speak and how you communicate and how you learn and how you like to receive information is different than other people's. So how you talk is not how they want to necessarily hear it. And so there's complete miscommunication because you're like basically speaking 2 different languages. And so I'm a very auditory person, so I like to hear things. Don't send me an email unless you put in capital letters at the top, Lori, you must read every word in this email. I'll just skim it. But if you call me and tell me everything that's in that email, it will sink in, stay. Right. So when you talk to me and you say something to me, I'm hearing it. But not everybody's that way. Like my husband is kinesthetic, so he's very emotional. So because he's very emotional and I'm auditory, sometimes the way I speak and the way I communicate is very harsh to him. It's hurtful because he's sensitive. So you have to learn how to communicate in their way. And there's a test for that. If anybody wants it, I'll send it to them. That you can figure out what your communication style is so that you can learn how to communicate the way they want. Your children are the same. And schools, I just had this whole meeting with the teachers, and I was like, she's like, I sent you a sheet at the beginning of the school year. I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm an auditory learner, so it doesn't matter if you sent me a sheet. I put it aside and was like, okay, if this is important, it'll come up. Or yeah, it has, like 6 months later. But if you had sent a video or a message or something like that, I would have been like, oh, that's what I need to do. I would have remembered it, right? So everybody has a different learning style, how they like to receive and communicate. It's just easier for them in that way. And so if you want to talk to your spouse in a way that is going to resonate with them, speak in their rep system, speak in their communication style, and they'll be like, really? What? Okay. I've done this. I do this all the time. And because we don't know, like, so even though I know this, I fall out of practice all the time. But when I really want my husband to listen and pay attention, I speak in his rep style, and I speak all about the feelings. So Tyler, it would really make me feel special if you did this for me, and he'll do it without a shadow of a doubt. But if I was like, you always forget to do blah, 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 like if I just talk at him, I'll hurt his feelings.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then with that said, we need to learn our partner's communication style in order to better communicate with them. Are there other tools?
Yeah, it's like your love language, and you know about love languages, right? Mm-hmm. So, and you can share this with your community too. And so there's love languages, communication style, there's sex languages. Those are the three main things, honestly, that in terms of meeting the needs of your partner. And that's before you even get to the topic that you want to talk about. And there's so many ways. And the thing about NLP too, and why this is so important in relationships, is that Psychology 101 says our thoughts create our emotions, right? And our emotions, they dictate our behavior, right? So everything that we do is based on how we feel, right? I don't feel like going to the gym today. Oh, I feel like going to the gym today, right? So, and our behavior, our action determines our results. So if we want a loving, nurturing relationship, okay, how are we acting and behaving to get that? If that's not working, great. What are our emotions that are driving our behavior? So if we're always mad and frustrated and disappointed because our expectations are not being met because they don't have the same expectations as you, then our mindset is driving all of that. So how we think, and those are also unconscious programming. It's our thoughts. Oh my God, I can't believe you didn't do that again. Oh my God, I can't believe you didn't go to the gym again. Oh my God, I can't believe you're, not doing this again. Right? So all those thoughts that go through our head, everything that we see goes through these filters. And when it goes through our filters, that's what the mindset is. The mindset is filtering everything that we see and hear and do. And so when it filters through our values and our beliefs, if we don't have a value for it, if we don't have a belief for it, then that creates an emotion. We get these thoughts and pictures in our head. So how do you even know you're right? You don't even know you're right because it's just based on your own programming and your own values and beliefs. And if they're limited, right? So for example, my grandmother was like, life is hard. It's beautiful, but it's hard. And I used to be like, oh, that's so profound. And in Italian, it sounded beautiful. And so I bought into that. Life is beautiful, but it's hard. And then until my life got really hard, and I'm like, life is hard. Why is life so hard? A hard workout was like, yeah, that was awesome because it was hard, right? So I was only finding beauty in the things that were hard. Like, how messed up is that? Like, no, I want life to be easy. I don't need to plow fields. I wasn't in war. I wasn't hiding from the Germans in a well like my grandmother was. Like, things for us are not as hard in terms of like physical, what she just deemed hard, right? Making bread and pasta by hand, cooking it in the oven. Like, we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So her version of hard in today's day and age doesn't match. So I'm buying into an old belief that now no longer serves me. So I had to release that. I had to let that go. So now I'm like, bring it on, easy and effortless all day long. I only want easy and effortless. So now my workouts are easy. I still get a good workout, but I don't have to like kill myself. It doesn't have to be hard in order for it to be effective.
Right.
So all our values and beliefs, they affect our mindset, which affects our emotions, which affects our actions, which affects our results. It's like a domino effect, but it all goes back to what we were programmed with, and it's all out of our awareness. So no wonder people are like, I don't know what to do. I don't know why this keeps happening. I don't know. It's because you don't know until you do the digging to figure it out.
Right.
It's so deep, Connie, like it's so many levels, but it's not hard.
Oh.
It doesn't have to be hard. And people think that, doing the work has to be hard. No, you just have to do it. Right? We just have to start to get to know yourself, really do the digging, ask the questions, and so I'm ticking off on my list here of all the things that I'm okay, I want to make sure. So that psychology one-on-one, your thoughts, right? So everything that we do, we have to learn how to manage our emotions, right? Because if our behavior stems from emotion, how are you managing your emotions? Because you can overreact. Like I'm an overreactor. I don't know about you, but I'm very like sensitive to anything that people say because I'm auditory, right? So whatever you say, it affects me, and especially the tone of your voice or how you're saying it. So I tend to be an overreactor. So I have to learn how to manage my emotions because I'm reacting to maybe something that is not even, I'm overreacting for nothing. And that's a big waste of energy, right? You're doing all these things and you're making all these assumptions and then you're like, oh man, boy, did I read that wrong? Have you ever had a misunderstanding in your partnership, right? Like where they said something and you like freaked out and then they're like, no, that's not what I meant at all. I meant this. And you're like, oh, you feel dumb sometimes afterwards. You're like, and then you feel guilty. And then there's all this whole other, right? Like when you overreact to your kids and they're like, no, mom, I did that. This happened. And you're like, oh, okay, sorry. Right. You grounded them to, you know what I mean? Like back in the day, we used to hit them, like you do all these things to your kids. And then you feel bad because you overreacted because you're programmed that way, right? And this is, you open your mouth and your mother comes out or your father. Like it's so intricate, right? And not everybody knows this. So I'm like on this huge mission to help people understand. Let's work on you first. Forget about the other person. Like not forget about them, but you know what I mean? Like you have to learn how to adjust your perception, because when you change the way you look at things, right? So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change. And so we have to learn how to adjust our perception and reframe things to be like, when something crappy happens, like it's finding the silver lining in things, right? We're always good. You go to your girlfriend's house and you're complaining about something and they're like, well, at least it wasn't like this. And you're like, that's how it is. It's like, it could be worse. It could be like, where's the lesson in that? Like, where's the gratitude? Like, how is this going to work out in our favor later on? And sometimes we don't get that until time passes. And then we have hindsight and we're like, oh, well, that was a good thing then that it happened that way. Right. So it's just about changing your perception on things. And perception is all about our model of the world, how we were programmed. Everybody looks at something completely in a different way. You and I will never look at a color and see it the exact same way. You'll be like, that's blue. And I'll be like, yeah, it's kind of like a tealy green. It's like, right?
Yep.
Because my mother was an artist and she taught me that all blues has yellow and green in it, right? Like you just don't know, right? Everybody looks at something different. So nobody's wrong and nobody's right. It's just differences that you have to find the common ground. And that's where communication is really important, because it's just asking more questions and understanding. So when someone's upset, your partner's upset, your children's upset, we take it on sometimes and we're like, we got to fix it, when no, you just have to hold space and understand and be supportive and be like, how can I help you? Like, because same as we want for our kids to be happy, we need to want the same for our spouse. And if they're not happy, it's like, okay, well, what's going to make you happy? But here's the other thing too. When we see other people not being happy, how do we know we're right? We're just looking from our own lens. So because we're always perceiving, we could be perceiving just through our own unhappiness. It could be just us projecting. And that's another huge thing about relationships, is that there is no out there. There's only in here, looking out there, making stuff up. You don't,
Wow.
I know,
Yeah.
blow.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know. So it's like you learn something new and you like have an aha, you're like, psh, and then everything changes in your world. You're like, wow. So you don't know what you don't know. So how do you know you're right? We learn as we go, and then we implement and we add on. But when you go back to, you know, you being born, like you knew nothing. So everything you know now to be true, you learned. So imagine what you don't even know yet.
Right.
So we have to be open-minded, and we have to be open to learn new things and receive, because if you're doing everything in your power to change, fix, improve your life on any level, doesn't even have to mean in relationships, right? And it's not working, it's because you need a new skill or tool, because you don't know what you don't know yet. You don't know that new exercise yet. You don't know that new diet yet. You don't know until you learn it and try it and implement it. So I would say if there's people in your life saying, you should try this, try this, try this, try this, it's like because the universe is like trying to give you the solution and you're being closed-minded. You think, no, it has to look like this, right? Like only therapy will work for us. Only this is going to work for us. It's like, open your mind a little bit, open your wallets a little bit, open your time frame a little bit, and you will start to see, like, you know, we're always so scared. And that's the other thing, we're fearful. We're so scared of, we don't even know what. And so this is why when tapping came into my life, it was a huge godsend, which is, and so this is the thing about my relationship, my divorce and my breakup and everything else like that. It was like, that happened for me. So I'm very, very grateful for it. And I have a wonderful relationship with my ex-husband now. We're great co-parenters, because without that, I never would have learned or found all these things to now be able to help other people and say, okay, this is what you can do. This is how you can do it. And, you know, this is the way, right?
Right.
I mean, this is what worked for me. Like, I'm sure there's other things that worked for other people, but there's not very many people that I know that are divorced and remarried happily, right? Or
Right.
there's a lot of second marriages. And here's the thing about marriage, 50% divorce rate in the first, it's like a 65% divorce rate in the second, and a 73% divorce rate in the third. Because what you don't heal from your first, shows up in your second, and again in your third. So all these breaking patterns, that's why my second relationship, I'm noticing, I'm like, wow, I'm seeing some of the same stuff from my first relationship. I'm like, oh my God, this is my stuff. This is my programming. This is my stuff that I need to heal. And luckily, you know, I'm in the world to do that. So it's helped propel me forward in so many ways, in my relationship, in my business, with my friendships with people. And so it's been such a profound journey. It's really been amazing. And so when tapping came into my world, and that's EFT. Have you heard of EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping?
I have, but others may not have. So you can give us that in a nutshell.
So tapping helps you manage your stress, because when we're in fight or flight, right? So your spouse does something and you freak out, or you get into a fight and you're all of a sudden like, why are we still arguing about the same thing over and over? And you can't just seem to manage to get to a solution, because both of you are launching missiles at each other, right? Because we're hurt and we're scared. And so when I discovered tapping, what tapping does is it helps you to calm your nervous system so that you can get logical again. So when we're in high stress, our brain shuts off. We can't make decisions. We're very emotional. We're very scared. We get into fight or flight. Cortisol is pumping nonstop, right? Which also that's stress, right? Long-term cortisol release will lead to disease, illness, fatigue, exhaustion, like all those things, because it's a gland, right? Like it gets tired. But there's so many things threatening us now that back in the day, it was like a saber-toothed tiger. Now it's the threat of your phone bill being cut off, the threat of not being able to go for a drink with your friends, the threat of, your kids getting hurt, or the threat of, the doorbell. Every time my doorbell goes off, I get scared. That's fight or flight. And that's your body goes into fear. And so tapping, right? 9 points, side of hand, eyebrows, side of eye, under the eye. Already I'm like calming down. It shuts the nervous system. It turns off the cortisol, and we're tapping meridian points. And meridian points, Chinese medicine, thousands of years, acupuncture will put needles. Tapping, these free, amazing resources right here at the end of our fingertips, free stress relief at your fingertips, literally. And I can show you an easier one, but for time's sake. And that shuts down, and that allows you to get logical, your brain, you calm down instantly. Like that took like 10 seconds.
Right.
Seconds. Because when we react, it's just an automatic fight or flight. Somebody says something to you, like your husband says something to you, it scares you, it freaks you out, it's a threat, it's a uncomfortableness. You're in fight or flight. And that can take up to 24 hours sometimes to calm without tapping. Like we don't have endless 24-hour cycles every time something happens. So in a day where you wake up late, you cortisol, you fight or flight, your husband's snoring all night, or your wife is snoring all night, cortisol. You can't get your hair right, cortisol. Your kids, Tupperware's got mold in it, cortisol. Like all of these things that aggravate you or agitate you or right, grate on your nerves is fight or flight. We react. Fuck, shit, da, da, da. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? We're worried all the time. And so tapping, and this is why I say regular tapping. I've got little sticky tabs on my mirror in the bathroom. And this is ridiculous. I have a much more subtle way to do tapping so that it's, you're not the crazy lady, but I don't care. I give no, what's anymore, because I'm like, I need to calm down right now. In traffic, in the car, you're out in public, someone's screaming, right? I'm tapping. I'm like, do. And it's a great way to hold space for people and not get engaged. So when your spouse is triggered too, and they come home and they're all like in a funk, tap and be like, what's wrong, honey? Like, how, is everything okay? Because the minute you get sucked into their emotions, you're done. Your kids too, same thing.
Interesting. That's a great tool. I actually went through a phase where I tapped a lot, and then I just kind of stopped because I was like, I don't even get it. Like, I don't get until you explained it. So
you're welcome.
And thank you.
And so I just tap to tap. I don't have to be feeling stressed, because number one, it keeps me in practice of it. It's a habit, right? So it's like doing your Kegels, right? Like you're just always doing them because you've gotten to the habit of always doing them, right? So same with tapping. Doesn't matter where I am, I just tap, because that makes sure my nervous system is always calm, cool, and collected, so that when I do get a little bit agitated, I know right away. I'm like, oh, I need to tap. Right? it keeps you at the homeostasis level, right? Nice, cool, calm, and collected all the time. My brain is always functioning. I'm not overreacting to things. And the minute that I do, or someone else is overreacting, I just tap. And it's my go-to thing whenever I see someone comes into my force and they're like any kind of emotional, I'm like, you need to tap right now. And they're like, Lori, I'm like, okay, well, you know what, it works for me. So whatever floats your boat, but I'm going to tap for you then, okay? Because while they sit there freaking out, you could get freaked out with them, or you could just hold space and stay calm and allow them to go through their stuff instead of getting sucked in and dragged down with them. Because there's the people in your life, you know who they are, who drain you mentally and emotionally, right? And sometimes we're those people too. And you know what? Now I've programmed my family to, and they are like, Mom, you need to tap. I'm like, thank you very much for reminding me. I appreciate that, because I'd rather them tell me to tap than react to me, right?
Right.
So, but yeah. Do you have any questions? Anyone?
I do. So I was going to ask you all right, so when it comes to conflict in a relationship, and you've given us these great tools on better communication and how to like kind of stay calm. What's your suggestions when it's a situation in which the partner is thinking, do I stay or go? And usually one of the like biggest reasons is, well, it's money or kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what can you say about that?
I would say before you make any decisions, before you put the blame on anybody else, really, I would say, what is it about you that you think is going to make your life better? Leaving or staying, right? So, and if it's a fear-based decision, I get it. And it's not an easy decision to make. Like, I didn't just wake up and be like, oh, I'm out. See you later, buddy. No, you have to look at the long-term health, mental wellness of you and your children. And so we always, we use an excuse for our kids to say, we use an excuse for our kids to leave, but at the end of the day, it's about us and our decisions, right? And if you really think it's in the better benefit mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually for you to make a decision to go, then go. But or stay, because you know that it's better for you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because either way, there's no easy decision. Oh, wait, I take that back. It doesn't matter the decision that you make. Either way, you have to do the work, because you stay, you're going to have to do the work, because you have to now do whatever it takes to be the best version of you for your children in that situation. So what kind of a role model do you want to be for your kids? You're going to stay in a relationship? Well, you're going to stay in the relationship, you're going to make the best of it, not just stay and be like, I stayed for you guys, because then, how great is that?
Right.
And then if you leave, you got to still be the best version of you when you leave, because you have to support their emotions, because they're going to go through a whole gamut too. Because either way, children are going to reflect your emotions. If you're good, they're good. People always put their children first. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying you have to be good. You can't expect your children to be good, because children want what's best for their moms too. So here is, you're taking your kid out for ice cream, and the kid's like, Mom, have some ice cream too. And you're like, no, honey, it's okay. You just enjoy your ice cream. And they're like, why does my mom never want to enjoy ice cream with me? Right? Like, how fun is it to enjoy something when someone else is not enjoying it with you? Right?
Right.
That's life. You can, life is like ice cream. And you have to enjoy your life regardless of what you do. So are you going to enjoy it better with your partner or without your partner? And how are you going to enjoy it when you're with them?
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, it's all about us and our relationship with us. Like, our responsibility is first and foremost to do what makes us happy. And if staying for your kids is truly going to make you happy, then great, that's the best decision for you. If leaving, if you think that's what's really going to make you happy, then that's the best decision for you. You have to do what's going to make you happy. So there's no right or wrong decision.
Right.
It's, if you're going to do that and you're going to stay miserable, it's the wrong decision. Because if you're miserable already, I'd say change nothing right now and do whatever it takes to make yourself happy and see if that changes things. Stop blaming the other person. Stop waiting for the other person to make you happy. Because if you leave, you're going to leave. You're going to have all the responsibilities anyways on your own. So pretend like all the responsibilities are already yours. And be happy. And be happy with it. And if that works for you, great, because there's no right or wrong, and there's no doing it for your kids or not doing it for your kids. It's doing whatever is going to make you happy. And sometimes that comes down to programming. Are you programmed to be happy? Look at your parents, look at your mother, look at your father, look, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're programmed to have, essentially. Right.
Quickly on that, do you know, so I was reading an article about happiness, and it said, the article said it's like 50% of happiness is genetic. But they think that it could actually be higher than that. But can you change that baseline? Because I'm thinking like, shit, I don't have a hope in hell, right? Like, right? Like if that's what if it's genetic, and how, you know, my parents are and my, you know, my grandparents are, or whatever, right? Like, do you believe that?
Well, here's the other thing about happy. It's from our model of the world. So happy can be perceived in lots of different ways, right? So how happy looks, how happy acts, how happy sounds, how happy feels varies from person to person. So you can look at someone else's version of happiness, and it's a cultural thing too, right? Because there's some cultures that, you know, are, you know, very passionate and loud when they're happy, and some are very subdued and tight-lipped and reserved when they're happy. So who's right or wrong? It's all, here's the other thing is that when we compare other people, or and it's all our own perception, it's all what we're seeing is only what's inside. So, you know, I wake up in the morning, I see my husband's miserable. I'm like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, nothing. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? I don't know. But I don't want to, I want you to look happier. Right? You don't look happy. And he's like, okay. Or, you know, same thing to me. Or when you're, you know, in a really good mood and you're like wanting to dance around your kitchen, you're like, la, 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 la. Yeah. People are like not in your vibe. And you're like, well, what's wrong with you guys? Come on, you're in the mood. And they're like, okay, yeah, I'm good, thanks. And that's it. It's that they're just happy in their own space doing them, and we expect them to be a different version or variation of happy. Or when we see other people being happy, it's like, how come I'm like that? I'm not happy like that. And comparison is the thief of joy. And that's something that I'm noticing. I'm like, wow. I'm like, why do I give a crap about anybody else? Why don't I just care about me? Am I happy? Yes. Am I satisfied with my life? Yes. I'm like, why am I always, you know, trying to have Gary Vee is the best. I love Gary Vee for that. Why am I always trying to think that I have to, you know, outwardly look happy or right or whatever, when all that matters is what's within me?
Yeah. And
so happy is, again, our own perception. So if you're happy, or if you think, you know, having a loving, nurturing, respectful, reciprocating relationship is going to make you happy, great. But here's the other thing. Why can't you be happy with where you're at in your life right now? This is gratitude. This is appreciation. Because the universe and the law of attraction goes with your vibe. So you're only going to get what you're vibing with. So if what you want is vibing up here and you're vibing way down here, there's a big variance there, which means that you need to up your vibe level in order for your universe. But the minute that you get grateful down here where you're, and it's not even down here, like I don't understand sometimes how, you know, we live in a very abundant world, very abundant. We have everything we want at our fingertips. We lack for nothing really.
Yeah.
And people are still like striving for happiness in the wants. It's like, okay, get happy right now, because if it was all taken away from us, we would be not happy. That would be really horrible. I'd be like, wow, if I didn't have my house, I'd be pretty upset right now. Might not be the house of my dreams, but I'm really super grateful for it right now. It is actually the house of my dreams. I'm just, you know, I'm evolving quicker. We're quickly evolving a lot faster than we realize, I think. And we're not focusing on what we have and how grateful we are for it, and how really it's the simple things that matter, like our health and our relationships, and, you know, being present in the moment. And that's some stuff that I'm working on too. And it gets evolved. It gets very spiritual, Connie. Like we're talking like a level of enlightenment, right? So
Right.
not everybody's at that level. And right now they're like, whatever, my husband's an asshole. Like, you know, and it's like, you know what? I totally get it. But the minute you stop looking at him like a jerk, the minute he'll stop acting like one.
I love that.
Right? Yeah. Right. So when I look at my ex, sometimes I'm like, I get it. I'm like, wow. And then I look at, you know, what I was doing and how I was acting. Like, we have a really great relationship right now. It's funny, like, that we can be friends, because you take expectation, you take responsibility, you take sex, you take all those, you know, relationship issues out, and you're friends again. You're like, wow, because you don't have those expectations. I don't care what you do with your life. I don't care, you know what I mean? Just, you know, when the kids are with you, be happy. All I care about is that his happiness, is he's happy. So my job is to be happy, so that I can always see happiness in him. Because the minute I'm not happy, I'm like, bleh, right? Or the minute I'm going through stuff or stress or whatever else. So when he's going through his stuff and he calls me with the kids, about the kids, I'm like, okay, how can I help you? We always have to be willing and wanting to help our partners, whether it be the partner of our co-parenting partner, or our partner in life. Like, we're supposed to be supporting each other. We're supposed to be in the business of loving each other. So why are we not supporting each other? I just have this. I wonder if I have the notes right here. I want to look for these. Oh, I found this great quote, and it was, love never holds people back from growing. How profound is that? Love. If you truly love your partner or yourself, do what it takes to grow. Support them in growing. If you love your partner, help them grow. If you really love yourself, help yourself grow. Do what it takes to, you know, whatever. I'm like, wow, love. It's all about love. Love and above. Everything else is fear. So we're always scared, and that's the tapping. Get to the tapping so that you can calm, get out of that fight or flight, so we're not afraid of dying, or not paying our bills, or, you know, not having enough, or not, you know, having the, you know, our spring wreath on our door yet. My Christmas one's still on there, you know. And then there's people on Facebook, they're like, geez, people, could you get rid of your Christmas decorations? No. Get over it, right? Like, but it's just irony, right? But that's their expectation. They're like, put your stuff away. And then there's other people that are like, I still have my Christmas tree up. And I'm like, that's the best. And if you have your Christmas tree up, please reach out to me. I want to have coffee with you.
Something that came up when you read that quote is that allowing people around you to grow in their own time as well, right? Like, we expect, I think that I find that a lot with my women friends, that we expect husbands to grow at our pace, and when they're not, we're like, this is over. Like, right? Like, if you're not doing it the way I want you to do it, then then we're done.
Like, get with it, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, even our friends, we're so judgmental. But here's the other thing too, is that, and because we're always projecting, it's like, well, where are you being the same way in your life right now? So you're annoyed that, you know, they're being lazy. Well, where are you being lazy in your life right now? It's probably why you're seeing it in them, because you probably, there's things that you should be doing or not doing, and you're just noticing it them. If you're not focusing on something that's making you happy, that's why you see unhappiness in everybody else. That's why everybody's miserable. Everybody's whatever. Like, go do something. Go be creative. Go learn something. Go take a course, paint something, even a rock. I don't care. Like, just find something new that it will occupy your time. And so the minute I get any kind of anxiousness or anxiety on anything, I'm like, Lori, go and do something. Like, action alleviates anxiety. So go and do something. Make yourself feel better. Dance, put on some music. Like, and this is the whole thing about the stuck, is that they don't know how. Our parents never taught us this. They just went through the motions, and they did the best that they can with the skills and tools that they have. Like, it's funny, my dad is watching my videos now, and I'm like, I wonder if he's getting some tips. And sometimes I'll bring up my parents in my videos, and I'm like, but you know what? I don't hold it against them. Now I see my parents way more magnificent than ever, especially now that I have kids that are like, I'm like, God, I love my parents and everything that they went through, how they survived. I don't know. Right. And, you know, just, and then when you talk to them about it, my mom always has this face of like, I'm like, oh, so smug. I'm like, all right, okay, all right. You know, we think they know nothing up until they are like, they know everything. So, you know, seeing our magnificence. So do something, go creative, stop worrying about the other person, worry about you. Go do something that will make you happy. And, you know, there is a lot of, you know, the unconscious part, and there's a lot, you know, the self-worth.
You muted yourself. Or
phone rang because I'm on. So I was very needy in my first relationship. I didn't realize that until now. And now that I have that self-worth and that self-confidence and that self-assurance, right? I'm like, wow, like, so I get it. Like, I wasn't aware. I was in a lot of denial. And so not everybody is, you know, really open. But I think if you're watching this, you're open and ready to receive this. If you're watching, you know, these parenting things, like, you're open and ready to receive this. You want to be a good parent, be a good person. Oh, one more thing. Raising healthy kids, and someone wrote this was in a parenting thing that I thought I saw. This was so amazing, in that, you know, being a good parent is raising your children to not harm themselves and not harm others. And I thought, wow, that's kind of a low bar. But I was like, because, you know, thinking about physically hurting somebody. But then I thought, no, imagine if our children had such great self-esteem that they didn't harm themselves with their thoughts and beat themselves up and were therefore, and not harm other people with their judgments or their harshness or their expectations. And I thought, that is so amazing. Like, but it comes from us. So we have to not harm ourselves and not harm others with our words, with our thoughts, with our judgments, because we're the role model, and it's up to us, be the change that we want to see in our kids. And so as a parent, I was like, oh, that was really deep. So right?
Yeah, that was Marianne, I think, that wrote that in the group.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
so. I was like, oh, I even said that to her. I'm like, who are you? I want to know you. And let's go have coffee, please, because I thought that was the most profound thing I ever heard in terms of like what we want for our children, but we have to program them that way. So, you know, yeah.
Oh, I think that was Kim.
I really love everything that you're doing, Connie. You know,
thank you.
I'm loving watching the group and your posts and engaging as much as I possibly can. But you know, it's a mission, right?
It is. Yes. Thank you. So I think that one of the biggest takeaways for me, which I've kind of known, but it was more like, now I like feel like I know, is that our problems or what we perceive to be problems are actually within us. And they're not, it isn't really about what our partner is doing. It's more, or what our children are doing. It's more about like what's happening within us that we're like projecting or reflecting or whatever it is, right, onto other people.
If you're worried about what other people are not doing or doing, then you need to look at what you are doing or not doing.
Right. Yeah.
Simple. Let's make it as simple as possible. You're worried about how your partner talks to you. Okay, worry about how you talk to your partner, or not talk to, or how you want to be communicated to. So know your communication style, right? So it's all about us. Do I need to set a boundary, or is this my fault?
Right. Right.
Do I take responsibility? Can I say I'm sorry? Can I say, oh crap, I was wrong? Oh, God forbid. I'm wrong all the time. I'm okay with being wrong, because you'll get the quickest apology from me, right? It's, can you be wrong? Can you say you're sorry? Oh, oops, duh, I made a mistake. Like, we are human, but when we are stubborn and we have to be right, you can be happy, healthy, and wealthy, or you can be right, but you can't be both.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for everything. So where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Lori Bertoni. Same thing, Lori Bertoni on Instagram as well. And if anybody has any questions, or they want that communication, that representational style test, then they can email me at info@loribertoni.com, or even send me a private message, whatever. And I would be happy to send them that test and get them on the road to better communication with everybody in their life, not just with their spouse.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And
You're
thank you to everyone that was watching.